So there is so much that this war has taken and that needs to be part of the media discourse. And to discuss that, we have with us Dan Qayyum, who is a writer, media strategist, and he has spent nearly 20 years in senior media roles across the Middle East, working with Reuters, Wall Street Journal, Economist. Thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. It seems as if everybody has forgotten about the damages that this war is causing other than the pure hardcore economy. What has been destroyed inside Iran: 300 hospitals are damaged, 30 universities, 857 schools, 56 heritage sites damaged. An institute which was a research center 30 years old has been struck. From your view, are we still talking about a country that can simply rebuild what it has lost? How are you interpreting it? It's all about society, science, heritage, and identity that will take a generation to repair.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I think this is, from Iran's perspective, this is about survival. So there's a lot of internal pressures on all the parties in Iran, and when we talk about all the parties, obviously we know that there's some disagreements within different power centers in Iran. But the one thing that's consistent among them is the pressure that they're feeling to get out of this situation as soon as possible. Obviously, we've got the U.S. naval blockade, which is strangling all the oil exports. Pakistan has allowed some land routes to Iran, so which is obviously for incoming cargo into Iran, a humanitarian basis. But in terms of oil exports, that's been suffocated. And the U.S. Treasury, Scott Bessent said, I think today, this morning, that we are suffocating the regime, and they're not able to pay their soldiers, which is, it's a lot of pressure internally on Iran. Yes, they're taking a hard line, but they're feeling it definitely.
Last time also when Iran was attacked, President Trump said that their nuclear sites are obliterated. And then there was this attack again. And now there is this whole conversation around nuclear again. And then we have this Project Freedom launched by President Trump, which in his opinion is humanitarian. So 65 days in, having seen this scale of destruction, now President is sending 15,000 more American troops into the strait. He has rejected the Iranian peace plan more than once. From your reading, what is he thinking? Is it just about posturing? And is it not about the consumer who is suffering, even in US?
I think, look, Project Freedom is basically a US naval operation launched. It launches today, actually, to guide commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And, you're right, it's been branded as humanitarian, and it's also the most consequential post-ceasefire escalation, deploying 15,000 US service members and about 100 aircraft into those contested waters. The naming is propaganda. I agree with that. It's called, basically they're calling it freedom of navigation, which is the established U.S. doctrine that the Pentagon has used in the South China Sea against China for about 2 decades. So Trump is borrowing the doctrine, the language, and the legal cover. The signal to Iran is that this is what the U.S. always does. Do not treat it as a new act of war. The signal to Congress that this falls under existing authorities. Not new use of force. And I think this is more relevant because of the pressure he is facing from Congress with regards to the War Powers Resolution.
Do you think he cares about it?
I think he has to. But the thing is, look, the reality check is the Congress is unlikely to actually invoke the War Powers Resolution to force a withdrawal. The votes are not there for it. But the political pressure is real because, the gas is about $4.45 a gallon US dollars, which is politically toxic. Trump's letter is doing the legal work. He sent a letter to the Congress saying that hostilities have ended. So basically checking that box. So there's a 60-day.
But you've seen the body language of Pete Hegseth in the last Senate committee. He was completely doing for PR. And from that point of view, there is a MAGA base who still thinks that whatever President Trump is doing is great and Iran cannot be allowed to have nuclear stuff. Do you think that base is still the same that was there in the beginning when he took the office?
I think, look, a lot of that pressure is internal as well. There's a lot of Republican senators who are uncomfortable with the open-ended deployment. IMF is warning of a global recession. Allied capitals are nervous. Germany announcing troop withdrawals last week. So the political clock for Trump is running faster than the diplomatic clock with Iran, I think. So I think he is facing, there's a voter split within the Republicans over the Iran intervention anyway. Plus, obviously, the midterm calculations are starting, which is this year.
Right. If we look at the Gulf, the Qatar's Ras Laffan, the world's largest LNG plant, is offline since the 2nd of March. We look at Emirates Habshan field damaged, Saudi Aramco hit. From your view, when the smoke clears, how long does it take the Gulf to rebuild what was destroyed in 2 months? And it was their vision, it was Vision 2030, that economy needs to go beyond oil and gas. Do you think to some point the Gulf has reached that version where Israel is at least comfortable that the sort of escalation in their growth that was happening is halted for some time at least?
For some time, yes. I think there's going to be a lot of recalculation from all of these national action plans, whether it's Vision 2030, whether it's Qatar. We were talking earlier, I think it was a few weeks ago, we were talking that Qatar will probably take a few years to get back to the same production levels that they had pre-war. So, I think in the short term, there will need to be a lot of calculations, and this has been a setback to the region, absolutely. In terms of getting back to pre-war levels, that could actually take years. That could take a few years. But in terms of getting off and running with as soon as if the ceasefire continues holding, or if there's an agreement, then the positivity it generates will obviously unlock some rebuilding efforts. But I think we're just looking long term in terms of getting to pre-war levels.
Let's look at Germany, what is happening. Germans have lost 5,000 American troops because their chancellor said that this war was a humiliation. And now Berlin is calling Tehran directly. So the allies, the Saudis, the Emiratis, everybody is calling Tehran directly. How do you read this reading that there was a country that was completely isolated and now everybody is calling it directly?
Absolutely, that's a good reading, and I think a lot of that has to do with the negotiation on the conditions that they have to agree. There's a lot going on from Iran's side as well, reaching out to a lot of countries. They need solid guarantees in place, and the guarantees they need have to come from countries that have leverage on the U.S. And Germany being one of them. So I think we will see a framework, an international framework, which guarantees that the peace will hold. And that will be part of the understanding that will be reached soon between all parties.
Last question on the humanitarian cost that this war is taking. The Middle East peace architecture took 20 years to build. The Abraham Accords, the Saudi-Iranian rapprochement in 2023. I've already mentioned the economic side, the Vision 2023. All of it has been broken in 65 days. Lebanon is being unmade. Gaza is still bleeding. From your view, even if Project Freedom does what it started, whatever happens, how long would it take for peace to return, the regional peace and the actual security architecture to repair from what has happened already?
I think Lebanon is the tricky one in all of this. I think we might see an agreement soon on the Strait of Hormuz, on the Iranian and the US side, but the Lebanese president asked Washington for a date to restart formal negotiations, which has not been given. Israeli strikes are continuing. Death toll, I think, now closing into 3,000 since March. Yeah. And ceasefire was extended for a second time, this time until mid-May. Diplomacy is alive but stalled. I think Iran's formally tied Lebanon back into the same framework through the 14-point plan, which was given a couple of days ago, which the U.S. has, I think, U.S. has rejected, but they've sent another plan, which now the Iranians are looking at. But I think reparations, which we were talking about being a big part of that, I think both sides have gone back on that a little bit. And if you see some of the actions that have taken place recently, there seem to be some confidence-building measures in place. U.S., for example, has returned the crew in the this morning. They've returned the crew of the ship to be sent back to Iran as well. So I think reparations, Iran is going to drop if it hasn't dropped already in the 14-point plan. But they're pushing for release of frozen assets and broad sanctions relief, I think, which will deliver what some of the reparations would have meant economically. So the U.S. is being cautious because once you release frozen assets, you've given up your largest non-military leverage.
All right. Dan Qayyum, thank you so much for being on our show tonight. Thank you. So those are the costs the headlines are not capturing exactly. After the break, what is happening to American power around the world? 5,000 troops gone from Germany. The German foreign minister calling Tehran directly. The country that was supposed to be isolated is now the country everyone is calling directly. After the break.